So let's see. I have a super here. Let me go ahead and check that out. So thank you so much, Annabeth. Let's see. I see your question, and it says, "Hey, I was wondering why the Old Testament doesn't talk about the devil, heaven, or hell like the New Testament. I know Sheol is talked about. What do you think?" Interesting. Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good, solid point. Hell is mentioned a lot in Revelation, uh, but then you kind of look at Luke 16 and how there's a difference about Sheol, and then also the devil. I mean, the devil is mentioned. I will say that, especially immediately in Genesis 3. Although it doesn't outright say the devil, it does say in Revelation that that serpent of old is actually Satan or the devil himself. So, I would say that when it comes to this question, there is, I forgot what the exact term is, um, revealed. Uh, there's very, okay, I guess it's, I think, okay, this isn't it, but it's essentially specific revelation. So if you look at the New Testament, people in the New Testament, if we were to plug ourselves into the times of Jesus and his disciples, okay? Jesus's 12 disciples did not have access to the book of Galatians. That didn't happen yet, right? They had access to all of the scriptures beforehand. And so God chose, like they didn't have the church. And if you look at Moses, they didn't have anything. They only had no, they only had, I guess, people that represented like God's servants, people like Moses, people like Joseph, people like Jacob. Like even Jacob didn't have the book of Genesis. So what I'm trying to say is when it comes to certain books of the Bible, God kind of slowly reveals chapters and reveals things. So people like during the time of David, they actually had the law. They had Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And so God just chose to kind of reveal very specific things based on certain time periods. So if you're wondering why the Old Testament doesn't talk about the devil or heaven or hell like the New Testament, well, the New Testament is supposed to be a more fleshed out understanding. It's like the Old Testament kind of points ahead. It's like it talks about the Messiah. It prophesies about the coming Messiah. And now in the New Testament, you actually have the Messiah. So all that to say, why doesn't it talk about it? Probably because God doesn't, he didn't see it fit. It didn't, it wasn't the way that he wanted to do things. So there might be some other deep, in depth theological answer. But my thoughts are God, in the first 39 books of the Bible, wanted to reveal very certain things, wanted to highlight certain things. And then in the New Testament, he wanted to now talk about other things. Things like the rapture, things like the church, things like spiritual gifts. Like spiritual gifts isn't a thing, really, and in the Old Testament. So all that to say, different books have different themes. Those different themes have a very certain emphasis, and that's just how God created the Bible. All the books still work together. The books still accomplish His will and what He wanted to impart to us. And yeah, that's kind of how we grow up, just by looking at the different books and what He does. Okay.